Friends, if you like videos about preparedness and survival and just living the good life, adventure, and all the things that come along with it, please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Let's get back to the show. Hey friends, welcome back. I am Jason and I've made a mistake. This post right here is supposed to be significantly taller than what it is right now. So that means that I've got to take it apart. And easier said than done. It's not a huge deal, but it is a significant setback. I used to get pretty frustrated with setbacks, and sometimes I still do if I'm honest. But I've gotten significantly calmer about the whole situation because I've determined that my life is going to be full of things and stuff. I'm going to spend every day, all day of my life doing things and stuff. It doesn't really matter what I'm doing for the most part. I mean, does it matter at the end of my life? Am I going to look back upon today and think to myself, gosh, if I only had that one day where I didn't make that mistake, I could get that back. That would have made all the difference in my life. Probably not. I probably won't even remember this mistake. So I do my best each and every day to live in the moment and not get frustrated, not get overwhelmed by the endless amount of tasks that we all have to do. Life is going to be full of things and stuff. Just do one at a time. Oh yeah, that's going to work. Hopefully, it doesn't all come crashing to the ground when I do this. Nice. That was actually way easier than I thought it was going to be. Holy crap. That hasn't gotten any lighter. This is my Fisker's axe. I've had this about 20 years. If you want a good axe that is almost zero maintenance, touch up the edge from time to time. If you want a good axe that you can use and abuse and beat up, this one just rides in my truck all the time. I've used it quite a bit over the years, and it's pretty much indestructible. If you want a good axe, the Fisker's, hard to beat. I'll see if I could put a link to one of these in the video. The custom PVC sheath you'll have to make yourself. The reason I'm building this structure is so I can put a canvas wall tent on there, and it'll be protected by a metal roof, and that'll make it last a lot longer, and I could potentially rent the thing out, or who knows, or if hard times come upon us, a family could rent this out for a very, very, very low rate, all things considered. And maybe I could give somebody some shelter for at least a while. It'd be better than nothing. It's better, a whole lot better than living in a tent in the woods. This will be significantly better. It's more like glamping than anything else. So anyway, that's why I'm doing this. And I think when it comes to preparedness in general, a lot of people don't even get started because it seems overwhelming. A lot of people don't get started because there's just so much stuff to do, so many things to learn. Where do you get started? Why bother? It's just, it's an impossible task. So what I have to say about that is just start small. Do one thing at a time. One thing at a time. And in general, that's a good just life survival strategy altogether. So when I've done longer survival experiences, training missions and stuff like that, when I was on the show Alone the Beast, where I spent a month in the swamp with nothing, I ended up I had one goal per day. I had all these huge ambitions to start with. And then I quickly realized that those huge ambitions were far from my reach, far from my grasp, because it just wasn't possible with the calorie deficit and the just fatigue of lack of sleep and all of that. So what I did was I had a goal. Every day I had to do one thing. Didn't really matter what that one thing was, as long as I could accomplish that one thing. I felt like I was successful at the end of the day. And sometimes what I planned on doing that day ended up not being the thing that I got done. I had to switch gears and move on to something else based on the weather or how I was feeling or whatever. And it's not just, I'm not talking about just survival. I'm talking about life in general. I've got a couple of friends. They're in their late 70s. And I was talking to them the other day, and he was telling me, you know, what it's like kind of getting older. And he said, we do one thing a day. And he said, now that we're getting older and their health isn't that great anymore, he said they still want to feel productive, basically, and they just do the one thing each day. And I think that's a pretty good lesson for us. If we can accomplish one solid thing a day, maybe you can accomplish more than that. But if you got that one thing done, I think that's a win. So that's what I'm doing today. I've already gotten quite a bit accomplished, actually, today. I changed the lock on a door in the house, taking some trash out. I made a sign for out by our gate so packages can be left there, because I don't want delivery people coming in and out and checking things out where I'm at. I want them to leave packages out there by the gate. So I got that done, and I just got up in the morning and I started chipping away, just knocking out one thing after another. And if you do that and you stay on top of your chores, you stay on top of the to-do list, it's not ever super overwhelming. Of course, there's going to be points in your life and times in my life that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get all this done. But if you just look at it from a different point of view, a different perspective, as if all I got to do is just get this thing done, this one thing. If I get that done, I'll move on to the next. And if that gets done, I'll move on to the next. And if something goes wrong or it takes longer than expected, I make a mistake and I've got to redo it. At the end of my life, is it really going to matter? Best tape measure you can buy right there. Get one of those. The Milwaukee 25, that thing will reach out when you're working by yourself. It'll reach out, I don't know, 12, 15 feet, something like that, without breaking. And this clip here doesn't wear a hole in your pocket like that. Another important aspect of these types of things is don't be afraid to ask for help. I am very guilty of this one. I'm a do-it-yourselfer. I like to do things on my own, in my own way. And, you know, I take pride sometimes, I guess, in being able to do stuff myself without someone's help. But because of that, I often suffer from the length of time it takes to do tasks. Like this kind of work here with these big, heavy timbers, it's so much easier with an extra pair of hands. And if I was to have help doing something like this, it would make life easier, and oftentimes work is a lot more enjoyable if you got someone to help you out. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, I don't necessarily think I'm afraid to ask for help. It's not that I don't want people to think that, you know, I'm incapable of doing it by myself and I'm afraid of that. That's not the deal. It's just I do take pride in being able to do things myself on my own, and working through problems and struggles is something I do take pride in. And you know, working by myself, it is peaceful. It's a slower pace, of course, but it is peaceful and perhaps a little more relaxing, less productive for sure. Two people can get 5 times as much work done, no question. But if I had someone to hold the camera while I was working, that would make life easier too. Priorities are important as well, guys. It's not just about getting something accomplished each and every day. It's about prioritizing those events, those tasks, those projects in order of importance as well. So fitness is a big one for me. If you're not fit, you won't feel good. If you don't feel good, you'll be less productive. If you don't exercise on a regular basis, you're just not going to be physically capable of doing a lot of things that you might ordinarily be capable of doing. And that's not calling anybody out. Maybe it is calling people out, because I want you to aspire to be better. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not some elite specimen. Definitely not. I could always improve by a long shot. And my priorities are not always in check, for sure. Sometimes I get things out of order, but I try to make these things a priority because I know that they'll benefit other aspects of my life. Like, for example, I work all day. I get after it from early morning until about 4 p.m. I try to do my best to cut out at 4 p.m. because that's when kids get home. And that's when I want to spend time with my family. I want to stop working and I want to spend time with my kids. If you ask anybody, an old person, someone near their deathbed, perhaps, if you ask them anything that they regret in their life, they will often say, most of the time probably say, they'd wish they'd spent more time with their kids. They'd wish they'd spent more time with their family, maybe worked less, changed their priorities a bit. And I don't want to make that mistake. I want to make sure, and to some of you cutting out at 4 o'clock, oh, what are you, some kind of lazy, but no, I like to work. I like to be productive, and I could very easily spend my entire day getting after it, getting stuff done. And I enjoy that to some degree, obviously, depending on what I'm doing. But I make it a priority to spend time with my family because that is so, so important. It's important to me, and it should be important to you as well. So prioritizing your tasks, the things that you do each and every day, is important. So if you're a preparedness-minded individual like myself, knock out the priorities first. Do you have a water supply to your house? Do you have a long-term food storage? Do you have those priorities knocked out? And then start working on the rest of the details. Because there's a whole lot of stuff out there that's going to lead you astray and distract you from the important stuff. It's not how many guns you have and how much ammo you're sitting on if you're starved to death or can't get a clean drink of water and are dying of dysentery. Now, I know that's not as popular of a subject, I get it, but it's by far more important. Another thing that's been really helpful for me is taking a scheduled day off. Either you pick a Sunday or you pick a Monday. It doesn't really matter what day of the week it is. As long as you take a day off, for me, man, it really recharges me. I really look forward to that day off where I just decide I'm not doing any work today. I might tinker a bit. I might play around on my motorcycle or something like that. But mostly I'll just spend time reading and I'll spend time with my family and my friends. And that's what I want to do. And if I can take that day off once a week, the rest of my week just seems like it's smoother. I'm less stressed. I'm not as tired, not as fatigued. It's difficult. I'm not good at this. It's very hard to take a day off because it just seems like there's so many things that need to get done. And it's difficult to put them aside for that one day. But man, I think it really does. I feel like overall, if you look at my entire month, if I was to go an entire month without a single day off, or you look at my entire month, if I took 4 days off during that month, I think my productivity would probably be about the same if I had to guess. Or I might be even a little bit more productive because of that day off. I don't know, it just recharges me. It gives me a little bit of extra juice. And I just feel so much better when I do that, when I stick to it. Not always a thing, but but I have noticed that it does make a big difference in my life, and I would encourage you to try that out. A little bit more. Just a smidge. Looks good that way. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already. I've got one more post to fix, and then we're in business and we can move on to the next steps of the construction process. And until next time, what's the worst that could happen? Let's go on 3.